I'm going back up.
GD Nori.
Team Dignitas gets the 2-0 over CE. It wasn't expected. We expected Team Dignitas to look to be the more dominant team in this match. But what does this mean for CE now? Have they run out of options?
To be honest, I personally feel like that's the case, right? You lose map number 1 on your highest preference map and not a high preference map for Team Dignitas. Team Dignitas even went through banning out the Abathur, so they weren't even willing to, because like when Dig is really dominant, it's around that kind of Abathur playstyle on the map. So they win on map number 1 in pretty reasonable fashion there. Game number 2, the only overlapping map that Dig was even willing to pick into your first pick slot. And then for game number 3, it just, even though you might be able to go to something else, I personally just feel like those 2 games on those maps were enough for me to go. Dignitas has got this 3-0.
I think they'll pick Battleground Choice, CE that is.
Okay.
And then either go to Battlefield of Eternity or Braxis Holdout.
The only reason I can see them not wanting to pick BOE, even though I think it might be their best focus to do so because it has a lot of those skirmishes, would just be because Dignitas was comfortable picking that all the way in Game 5 versus Ballistics. I mean, it didn't work out for them. They ended up losing it, but they did pick it.
But it's Game 5. It's Game 5, 2 maps are banned. You're picking out of 3 maps left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's maybe something for there, but I just feel like it fits CE's playstyle really well.
Yeah, it does. I think that would be the biggest thing for me. A lot of the Chinese teams, to be honest, I'm surprised how little they prioritize the map. I mean, it can snowball and feel really, really bad to want to learn the map, but when you consider their strengths as a region, and it seems like especially with CE as a team, a map like Battlefield of Eternity, it does have some consideration of macro, but not enough to where you feel like it can be overwhelming, and that idea of baiting fights is very, very probable on that kind of map.
So we're looking at Team Dignitas now with a 2-0 win. Should they win this series and move forward, they'll be playing the victor of Fnatic versus SPT. Any thoughts on how you think that particular match is going to go?
I feel like if I was to say after yesterday's results, I'm going to say originally, I would have said 3-0. If any series was going to be not going in Europe's favor, it would have been this one. But then after yesterday's games, I feel like it's still going to be heavily lopsided towards Fnatic, but a lot closer than I would have originally assumed. Like I don't want to put a percentage on it, but I still would say pretty heavily weighted for Fnatic, but very different than before this knockout stage had happened, which is still so awesome to see again out of these Chinese teams.
Yeah, because Fnatic and SPT went 1-1, same as Dignitas and CE, but the difference is the timing of those matches.
Yeah.
Dignitas and CE was Dignitas' very first series. It was the only time really that we saw Poik be nervous because it was the first time he was playing on LAN. Of course he's a little bit nervous, right?
Turns out it's pretty hard, the first time.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. So they lose that map there, but since have shown that was likely to be a fluke there, and Dignitas is the stronger team, but SPT is not the same.
No, at the point where I have a huge question mark on them, because we've been saying, I feel like for maybe the average viewer, struggles to identify why we have so much surprise on that, and it's because CE, though they have been the one to be able to perform normally a little bit better than SPT, everybody at home, if you've never watched the Chinese region, SPT is the best within the region and have been for quite a long while. So if they've kind of been the beast awoken within a region that is now climbing, I mean, as Fnatic, you at least got to be second-guessing your confidence levels. But game number 3 here is going to be taken to Sky Temple, selected by Team Dignitas.
Yeah, that's a weird choice to see from Team Dignitas. Granted, Tomb is taken away from them, but Sky is sort of a map that CE has been willing to pick when they are sort of like third tier. Maybe Dragon was banned or Towers of Doom was banned. Team Dignitas, though, doesn't pick Sky Temple. Every single time they have played it in this tournament, they have ended up being first pick. So let's see how that works for them as a result. Tracer Van.
Help but feel like it's a bit of a bamboozle towards anybody looking at what is that tier 3 map priority for Dignitas, kind of hiding as much information as they can, and rightly so at a tournament like this, as long as it is. No surprise, Tracer Abathur taking off the table, Gilly.
Leaves Genji up if CE want it. CE was one of 3 teams who hadn't played Genji all the way through the group stage. Roll20 and Fnatic were the other 2, and all 3 teams ended up busting him out in the end yesterday or the day before for Fnatic.
The patience that CE displays within those first pick every single time makes me always so hesitant, to immediately go, they've got it figured out. Just when you see a pretty predictable ban rotation, especially when you're the one choosing the first and Dignitas is sticking to quote-unquote meta.
Ooh, they might want ETC instead of Genji. As I was looking at Wind, I was like, there they go. They get ETC. Wind will be very happy to see that. Although, I guess Paradise played that yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, we have seen him be able to bust it out. For Team Dignitas, what do we expect immediately? I want to see something like, I mean, Greymaine's got to be something we consider. He is absolutely dominated throughout this tournament, but if they, with that, what do we want to see paired? I kind of like to see the Lucio, especially for Xaylia. Xaylia's Lucio has been, I feel like one of the best here at this tournament.
Previously in this rotation, if they can't get Task Tracer, they've gone ahead and gotten, well, they were first pick, but ended up getting Dahaka and Genji.
I guess, okay, I forgot the Genji's still up. I forgot it, but I see the little green guy and banned out, and for some reason Genji's in my head. So then, but CE would be comfortable going into a double warrior and kind of deterring those if you would like. Lucio, and it's going to be the Dahaka. I can't help but feel like maybe go into that, but again, the double warrior, going into the Genji, but with the double warrior option, it's not that Genji's bad, it just makes him far less probable to get resets, and to be honest, I mean, why pick Genji other than to get the reset? I mean, other than he's a cyberkinetic ninja, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. Moves around the map quickly.
My only complaint is why build a ninja that needs that much healing?
Ninjas are meant for killing.
Yeah.
Okay? Someone else can do the healing. Someone else can help him out. He is a killing machine. Literally. Next two for CE, if Karazim is the choice, likely to see it here. Aloof, has he played Karazim yet this series? No. I think he's probably overdue for a Karazim. Like I said, versus BTG, 4 out of the 5 games, it was highly picked for him. It is his favorite.
And when we see that Lucio picked up, it does make it most sense. But they're going to go with the Arthas Greymane rotation, which feels the next go-to and down the line here. But I agree with you. Just because that Lucio taken away, you have the ETC as the control. You can go Greymane Karazim. You have the trio that made its spike starting at BlizzCon this year. Just the kill potential it provides in a map like this. Even if you don't actually get the kill, just threatening him off of that first shrine alone. One cycle of rotations from Karazim and hitting his E, and you very much are going to want to nope out and give shots over to the other side. They disagree. They're going to go a different route, but I'm looking for that oomph here for CE as they, their tournament life's on the line.
Yeah, you thought maybe they would bust something out a little more like the last draft, to be honest, but they also went for first picks, so maybe giving it the indication that they weren't going to do that. Dignitas is looking at a Zeratul ban. That has been something that CE have been playing, but generally, that is always Paradise. And as of yet, we haven't really seen CE be able to flex out a Zeratul in the way that Ballistics has, where they still run Double Warrior with Jungha and Hooligan, and then have SC move over to the Zeratul.
And there's not a major enough argument within the draft that Dignitas has yet that I can see the justification for that ban. So maybe, wasted ban for Dignitas. Will it cost them? I don't know. To be honest, probably not. But something they might be looking back at the draft and just kind of going, why don't we do that? It's not going to be unlikely to see that here from them.
What did they struggle with versus Ballistics' Zeratul? Because there was one game they won it.
It's when they ended up picking up, I don't remember what the composition was off the top of my head, honestly. Give me a moment, I'll find it. Ban for CE. Nothing stands out immediate. I feel like since you have the Warriors itself, if there's a choke onto the Warriors that you would want, you would do it here, but there's no amazing one for them to maybe want to rid of. They're going to take away the Li Ming. It still leaves up a reset, though. I feel like why the Li Ming over the Genji if you were worried about a reset?
Especially with the Zeratul ban, I almost thought maybe Dignitas were looking at Tyrael Genji. Even though, like you said, it's against a Double Warrior.
But, I mean, when you got the Tyrael to back you up, as things change a little bit in that area.
It still would be... Well, yeah, they could still add on the double reset with Li Ming and Genji, so maybe the Genji isn't as scary to CE as the Li Ming. They have ETC if they want to try to win off of a mosh pit. That makes sense.
Yeah, and, also, generally speaking, it feels like Li Ming, is more effective at just getting that massive poke as a warrior sitting around those shots. I mean, it is legitimately fish in a barrel on Sky Temple. If you are playing against the Li Ming, and that many melees would struggle. Dignitas has taken a long while here, though, for their next 2 picks. It's going to be Genji, a new Barak, not the Tyrael. We were questioning if it would be picked up. But it does provide a lot more offense. They have the opportunity to get the Cocoon heavy amount of isolation, and with the Li Ming banned out, it's kind of a shot now into the foot of CE, as there are about 0 tools remaining that can deal with that as fast as her, or even close to. One of the fastest clears in the game onto that is Arthas, just with his passive, or with his E constantly cycling outside of him and getting the ticks onto that. Karzim is one of the better ones too, but it's only when he uses the cooldown, so even then you feel so bad dropping it. I like that pickup for Dignitas a lot after seeing that Li Ming ban.
Yeah, it's also going to be a great setup for Genji too. You hit a lot of people with a Burrow Charge in, you have the follow-up knock-up from that from Impale 2, and then Genji just has a heyday. And with Cocoon and Isolation, there's many ways to stop what CE would like to do in team fights. Rhaegar and Uther.
Interesting choice from them to commit to the double support in this position. It will, way back before a single support moved to the double support ever, you didn't even look at double support. Sky Temple was when it released, everyone thought this was the map you had to pick double support because you could sit on the shots for so long, and if you could bully them off, Gilly, they can't do anything. We later learned that there are many other ways to be able to punish that style of play, but it still does have a bit of advantage because that mechanic is still prominent, and as long as you aren't worried about macro, which there's not too much threat over the earlier stages, later on Dahaka might be problematic, but at least early on, CE should be fine with that. And they also have the Divine Mosh opportunities for themselves if they commit to it. I almost feel like they have to, honestly.
Right.
I don't feel like there is a situation where they go stage dive, and I look at this and go, you can deal with these team fights.
It also does make sure that a support stays out of Cocoon from that, but at the same time, there is more than that because there's Cocoon and Isolation. There are 2 ways of dealing with the supports. Interesting, but they do have the Divine Mosh possibilities. They have many ways for a cleanse, Mosh opportunity to CE with a double support, double warrior, going back to what got them to the place that they were at in the group stage. The 5th place team out of the group stage. Let's see if they can hold versus Team Dignitas.
And with Dig, they have a lot of what we've seen from them here in this tournament. Nothing that stand out in terms of strategy. Still displaying clever drafting even all the way through that 3rd game here. But I want to believe. I want to believe in CE here to at least be able to take 1 game off of Europe, not just for the sake of, my own personal interest, but also for China and their growth here. It would be a nice way to use it as a benchmark of where they have been able to come.
What do they have to do with this composition to do just that?
I think the biggest thing is automatically focus on making sure you get to 10 on even footing, and I mean that on structures and on shots. And generally, obviously it's always in your best interest to make that happen, but the game for Dignitas on a map like Sky, with how much offense they have out of the Genji and how fast he can open up levels fights before 10 mark, it's just very important that they stall out, and I think it will be difficult. The biggest thing is maybe accept you're going to lose the first shrine phase, concentrate towards top, and make sure that Dignitas does not have a time advantage over the first 2 shrines when they do end up spawning. I think for me that would be the biggest sign that CE's in that direction. Or if you think you can somehow win the fight, if for weird circumstance you see Genji into the wrong part of the map, just make sure you bully them off, win those shots, and then stall out the game. When heroics hit and you can force a fight, their comp actually is great. Like, their comp is still very strong, it is very powerful, and can deter Genji resets.
Yeah, because when I look at CE, I see lots of people with a ton of lockdown for the early game fights, and then Greymane to be able to do some pretty good early game damage from that. You've even got Arthas who delivers the damage too. So if they could maybe try to catch some people in the rotations between the 2 temples as a way of getting ahead from that, because you've just got the lone Lucio as the supporting, and it takes a while for Lucio to scale up.
Talking about Lucio here in Dignitas, Zalia will be on that, Snitch on Genji, JPL on a new Barak, Wubby played by Dahaka, and Poik on Bala.
CE with their last life going into Sky Temple, Luful playing the Rhaegar, Wind on Arthas Paradise playing ETC, KTY playing Uther, and Shuyu on Greymane. Seeing Paradise playing ETC makes me think this won't be a Mosh game and more so a stage dive game, but we'll see.
Stage dive will be able to deal with that experience. We'll be able to hold on with that Dahaka pressure out into the game, but does it give him enough into the team fight now that they committed to that Uther and the Rhaegar in this double support, double warrior composition? I guess we're going to have to find out. There was one thing that with those early skirmishes that I feel like I maybe didn't emphasize enough, and that is that this isn't a new Barak into essentially a 5 melee composition. Impales are usually pretty easy to be able to hit one target as long as they're about halfway through the cast range. And when you have this many death balls clumped up, it is very, very easy to find yourself just going, here's a casual 3-man impale. That usually leads to another 3-man burrow charge. And in those situations, yes, again, with the health bars that CE has, they can respond. Dignitas automatically knows this is up here. I thought they might see a more aggressive class, but if we do see, that happen into these fights, I still feel like Dignitas, even with the comp being solid here for CE, will just pull ahead. I am relying not so much on objective draft here as I am a skill disparity that I feel like has been displayed as well.
Yeah, I really feel like if CE gets behind in the early game, they are never going to recover from Dignitas. They need to get something done. So while, yes, waiting for heroic abilities
is neat,
it is good, they're going to fall behind on Sky Temple, where you fall behind structurally, you have a lot of trouble. You just basically stay behind the whole time, and I just see CE sort of petering out instead of trying to bring the fight right away to Team Dignitas.
Yeah, and I wish I could tell you I had a better answer on how to be able to force that in terms of the transitions. The most dependable fight to be able to get on a map like Sky Temple is going to be over the eye vision before the first shrine phase or onto the middle shrine because it has the most value immediately. They have 13 seconds to be able to make that happen. I would like to actually see them pressure out this middle wave, force a slower rotation possibly out of Team Dignitas while ETC makes sure he gets the zone. And Arthas, if he starts those shots up on top, that time sensitivity starting this I feel like is going to be the biggest indicator on how successful they'll be at level 1 or 1 through 9. And they only lost, what was it, 1 shot? Now controlling both. This is exactly what I would like to see from them. Great job here from CE.
Getting very aggressive, being able to hold out. They are stalling in the top, but now Dignitas want to do the same. Wind gets caught. Burrow charge in. Damage is here, but KTY is here to show up with the heals and the armor. They turn around. Stun lock for days. JPL can go nowhere. Just kept CC'd and body blocked. But Arthas will go down to trading out 1 for 1.
Yeah, really good job there from Wubby getting the punishment to make way up in mid. CE ends up losing another member there. Wubby making the rotation up there. Normally you don't want to commit your Dahaka on the first shrine phase in that type of situation up, but it was necessary after the body blocks got turned around from CE onto Dignitas. There's still a small advantage judging by those waves, but the fact that Dignitas was able to use Lucio to come down and make sure they lose that don't lose that experience, Dig does end up pulling ahead. But I feel like it's more of what we saw to CE, though it didn't return a profit. They very much are aware of all the qualms that we seem to be, foreseeing throughout this game.
Yeah, they are trying to do what they can to get aggressive, but losing the person in the mid, it was maybe just the too far point for them. And now there's more problems. Team Dignitas had a really fast rotation, allowing really just getting the last few shots in top, and once mid was done, going down and getting giants. They're going to push along with that, and that sets them up beautifully for the next Temple Phase 2.
A little bit of prep down here below. We'll see how much Dignitas wants to kind of hang out for, but you see that 3-man impale. I assume that this is only going to get amplified. We've been talking about post-10 team fights, and that's really where CE comes online, but it's also where that impale is going to likely get high amount of value for JPL, as everyone on the side of CE has to remain clumped.
That will be a problem. Dignitas hasn't invaded the giants yet. This might be a place for CE to try to fire back if they can. They know it's a possibility that CE is going to go here, though, after dealing with those own giants, and that's why we see ETC trying to make sure that he keeps the zoning off.
I would have liked to see Dignitas maybe try and capitalize there, just mainly because they hit the 7 talent tier too. If it was even talents, I would be like, I can see you don't have enough of an early game maybe advantage, but when you get that kind of talent tier with this composition, poking and prodding, maybe just Genji, throw out a few shurikens, see and test the waters. Dignitas, though, they take the safer route. They're going to go for the night camp, which seems to be timed maybe a little bit earlier than you would normally expect, considering that we're about 30 seconds out from those shrines. But by no means is it, unheard of as CE perfectly mirroring.
Yeah, they got the same. I wonder if maybe Dignitas' idea was to bring more up there, and with the night camp and with Dahaka, just take out the fort, and then they can just really focus in, hone in on the bottom temple, especially because they've already done damage to the towers down there. But it seems like all they want to do is just make the rotation with the rest up to mid, clear this out, and then get the setup there for that temple phase. We already see Zalia starting to head down there.
Man, that was interesting there for Dignitas. They had that kind of half-feigned rotation, but then committing to this on bottom. I mean, it didn't cost them anything, but I will say that I feel like Snitch's transition may, be a bit too slow. I said it didn't cost him something, but, Poik, he took a lot more damage. It forces a tap. CE should look to punish, though. Dahaka and Arthas stuck up into his top lane. Dignitas will have the opportunity to use that global down if CE hangs out for too long.
There's the burrow charge in from JPL. Dahaka stalking in now with Wubby 2. Great power slide from Paradise, though, to stop and make sure that he doesn't hit anyone with the drag. Now that I think about it, the rotation, I wonder if Dignitas wanted to bring CE up to the mid and then just speed Zalia down as fast as he could to just get a few shots off of that, get them even closer to taking out this fort, because they are pulling ahead in the race to 10.
And I will say that I feel like CE also maybe should have been able to identify that a few seconds earlier and hopefully pressure top instead afterwards, because taking the first couple of shots, awesome. It's when you see the Genji transition upward, but then you don't have the global advantage, and more importantly, you don't have the 10 advantage. You have to be giving that up past a certain point. And yes, while CE was doing things in the bottom lane, what is that really going to gain them? They're just avoiding Dignitas at all costs because they don't want to deal with the heroics. Whereas maybe middle or top, something else could have been pressured a bit harder. It's there, but I can't help but feel like this is about 45 seconds too late, right? This is not like this was an unforeseeable circumstance for CE. Yeah,
it is too late for them, and they have the boss pushing against them in the bottom lane, knowing that Dignitas was going to get boss from that because of that temple phase was in the bottom. So now CE have that pushing against them there. They haven't been able to take out a fort from Team Dignitas, and our hopes that they could get aggressive somewhere in the early game didn't happen. So now they're going to have to play from behind. They have heroic abilities. No Mosh Pit, but they do have a Divine Storm.
I was really hoping if they don't commit to the Mosh Pit that we see the Divine Storm pick up. If you see the Mosh Pit and then go for the Divine Shield, it makes sense because you're getting that crowd control. You need to make sure you can lock down Team Dignitas, but once you commit to that stage dive, keeping one person alive that much longer, unless it's Grimming going ham, and if he is, you have that Ancestral. So really like the fact that we see the Divine Storm picked up here for CE. Not the first time we've seen this. A couple of teams, whenever running the double support with Uther, has been comfortable doing so. But I feel like it's a must here in this type of composition, as long, again, as they're committing to the stage.
How much does this change up how Dignitas and Snitch play with their Genji? Hold on to that. Cocoon's there.
The Cocoon will hold on to it for
here,
me.
Yeah. Wubby's here too for the drag follow-up too. Cleanse, though, from Aloof Fool gets Paradise out. Now CE is charging into the fray as well. Stage dive goes down right on top of Dahaka. Divine Storm comes in. Volley gets taken out before the sound barrier could stay alive. Point goes down, and the chase continues.
Zalia?
Locking down Zalia too. CE gets a second.
KTY is the man who's making the plays for CE between that Divine Storm and getting the follow-up Hammer of Justice. This poor one-shot giant is going to be taken out by Wubby, but CE is going to use this advantage on time onto the map to make sure they get these shots. But with Dignitas rotation immediately with the Dahaka on bottom, this is stopping the bleeding as effectively as they can. And it's these type of decisions that Dignitas make that even though CE got that window of opportunity, they can't let go, and they just are so good at just minimizing all the problems. Look at them rotating up to mid. They find themselves, though they were at the disadvantage, they had the rotational advantage towards mid. This is, anybody want to know why Europe stands out as a region? It's stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like Dignitas were mind readers there, knowing that CE was going to see that bottom was being taken, freak out because they're behind in structures, head down to that. Now they leave ETC there, but he doesn't have his global yet because he used stage dive in the fight, and that forces the rest of CE back. And Dig do still get some shots, a lot of shots, even though they did lose in that fight to CE, and that keeps them in the game.
But CE, they're still holding on to the map. Considering how fast it can snowball, they very much are keeping this competitive and very close. And it's not like their composition is going to get any worse as this game moves on. For the most part, generally speaking, their composition, like the scaling is going to be there. It has a lot of survivability tools, especially on Arthas as things move on here. But Dignitas, I'm trying to see if they have a major power spike I'm fearful of, other than, you know, post 20, some of the Genji and, you know, Lucio upgrades, and post 16 Lucio healing. So maybe it is probably actually more necessary that CE be proactive during this pre-20 phase of the game.
Yeah, I look at 20 for Genji, that's huge. 16 for Lucio. Like you said, Contagion has been a big playmaker at this tournament, especially.
Yeah.
And then Vala at 16, no matter what she picks there, Frost Shot for either more of the control, the slow for the kiting of those two warriors in the front, or even to get Manticore as a way of being able to burst down the warriors in the front too, will be really good for Dignitas. But it's nice to see that CE are charging back into this. They're bringing the fight to Team Dignitas despite being down 2 games in this best of 5, despite being 1 game away from being eliminated from the tournament.
For the power spike on the side of CE, though, one thing for maybe KTY, Benediction is only going to amplify that hard crowd control. You see the flank attempt here from KTY, but he is going to be caught out. A lot of damage down by that Hungering Arrow build out of Poik, but I'm surprised Dignitas didn't get a harder collapse on that, mainly because Genji has to be stuck towards that bottom lane, dealing with those minions. And Dig also, they can play patient. They have that experience advantage to round 16. It's one thing that CE can rely on, maybe while we know the next Shrine phase is about to spawn, is trying to prep the bottom lane to where they get the Giants timed perfectly with it. They're going up on top right now to make sure that they get this experience as fast as they can, hoping they can make something happen pre-16. But Dignitas still thwarts it off because that trickle-down experience mixed with the Haka on bottom is going to be problematic. And now, not enough time to get any pressure on bot.
This is so scary. CE are trying to disengage, but also making sure that if someone would get caught out, but Dignitas are the ones who have set the trap. Dahaka can come in. Snitch is there for the flank. If a Nubarak went in with a huge burrow charge, he could swift strike right in for a lot of damage in the blink of an eye, but not going for that, at least yet. They instead will put Dahaka on that bottom shrine. CE takes the fort. This gets them closer to 16. CE still trying to stay in a position so that they can start a fight as soon as they get that.
This has been really cleverly done for Dignitas, kind of feigning the rotation down below like they were going to do something else onto the map because there really was nothing to be done onto top, and then waiting for CE to move out, tried to force it. I would have liked to see them maybe even force it a little bit harder. CE does have that 16. Trying to get that invade. Okay, Gilly. So we've talked about the 16 in the late game here for CE, and it doesn't seem like they're necessarily, I mean, it's very apparent they're losing in structures. They can't trade shots anymore, and Dignitas is just out-rotating. The only way I feel like we can see this adjust is just starting a boss that Dignitas will have to answer to. I would love to see CE just be like, all right, if you're going to play this game, we're going to make this happen. And you see them second-guessing it, and the fact they're second-guessing it is going to allow Dignitas to just make this transition towards top. They know that that's one of the better plays, and like you said, the mind reading is going to allow them to take free damage. Worst of all here for CE is they didn't commit to the boss.
No, they pulled
just
up
lost
instead.
the turret.
They went all the way up to the top trying to respond to Team Dignitas, and it does feel like CE are really on the back foot for the rotations of Team Dignitas. Dig have CE figured out. They have been able to bait them into CE thinking that they can get a fight. Yesterday, BTG did the exact same thing for CE. That tends to be a sticking point for CE if they feel like they can get the fights. Trying to keep up with a European team in rotations is very difficult for even the best teams, but CE is doing their best. They do start the boss. Dig's showing up to the party.
Yeah, but Dig has already shown that they are very self-aware of how this is going to unfold. If it's a must fight for CE, you know, they're going to be able to play it safe. You see the collapse there. As they're pressuring on mid, there's no vision of the Wubby whatsoever right now. He gets a drag on Arthas, and this is why that middle lane is so very important. Controlling the vision completely decides, can you see if somebody's getting a collapse onto the boss? It forces a poor anchor. Another attempt from Wubby. Now you see Paradise getting the anchor, but do you want the ETC to be the man trying to get that vision control for you? 27 seconds. So CE's got to answer a really tough question here. They try to collapse onto Wubby, but he uses that 16 talent, the tunneling claws. But it looks like they're committing.
Yeah, the boss is now falling below the halfway point. This is it for the teams, and this is absolutely it for CE. If they lose this fight handily, they don't have a keep in the bottom, and it will be the end of this series for CE. Boss goes down, CE step on the point, stage dive in, the Rain of Vengeance hoping to stop. Knockback there, but JPL gets back in onto the point. Divine Storm hits a lot of the members. The Impale hits even more of the members of CE. They are falling one by one as Snitch is having a heyday over CE. They will wipe CE, and Team Dignitas will take the boss and move on to the core.
Zalia just zoomed in there and just drops the 4-man poop casually and rides it out. Dignitas, they understood the circumstances here of this game, and they played it so very clean. Not just this one. Honestly, Dignitas almost was, it feels like it was surgical with every decision that they made throughout this series, and they will now be able to move on and take that 3-0. Just amazing.
Stellar play for the new roster of Team Dignitas, proving that they deserve to be in the top 4 teams of the Gold Club World Championship. They'll await the victor of the next series between Fnatic and Super Perfect Team, and that's who they will face tomorrow.
CE did have a pretty solid tournament, though, I will say. Maybe not the underdog story of BTG, maybe not the Korean, Chinese team, the #1 within the region, waking up like I feel like we got of SPT, but they still very much had a pretty solid performance here for the Chinese region.
Yeah, CE took games off of Ballistics, off of Team Dignitas. They had many days to be able to learn and adapt and be able to take all of the experiences they've gained, the knowledge that they have from these games, both tournament and scrims, and now be able to carry that forward into HGC 2018, as all of the teams, as they get eliminated, are going to still be able to do. Even the teams at the top, they will be learning from this so that they can go and improve not only themselves but the region.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what that does here, because GCWC, because of how long that kind of format is that we have here, it is kind of the breeding ground for a lot of these competitive teams, and to be able to learn, get the international performance is why so many of these new rosters heavily committed to this type of tournament. And for China in particular, I'm really excited to see what kind of development happens. And, I say this, but it's not like China's out of the tournament. We have SPT into the next series against Fnatic. But for CE and the struggle or success they've had internationally, but more so the struggle they've had within their own region, right, with what has been the bane of their existence, SPT, I want to see if this experience is what they are able to rely on to maybe finally kind of overcome that barrier.
I think what's really cool for CE, too, is that I have no doubt that they have made a lot of fans, even Western fans, at this particular tournament. For a long time, people have been watching these players, maybe on different teams or together, represent China. But together as a group, this team has been a team of just awesome team fighters, even with playing without Shuyu, who they feel is their carry and lots of people see as the best ranged assassin in all of China. They were able to take out Tempo Storm in their first series of BlizzCon. And so to be able to continually have these really good results, I think is going to continue to build fans of CE. But I'm a fan of our MVP too, Snitch, the captain of Team Dignitas, earning the last MVP. I guess we finally have to give it to someone other than Poik once in a while.
I guess, just you feel bad doing it, but I guess this is the whole team. Dignitas isn't just Poik multiplied by 5. I'd like to imagine a world or a team that looks like that. That's got to be intimidating, right? How many? Can you imagine that? Oh man, so many chromies.
Terrifying. That's like a brawl up in there. Just you can't even stay alive.
Nope.
Ugh. That's it for Team Dignitas versus CE, but we have another series that is going to be just as phenomenal. SPT versus Fnatic, the final remaining Chinese team at the Gold Club World Championship after this.